Hey friends, hi. Doc South here with another Lord's Prayer moment, and I think you'll like this one. It's it's a cool story of my one day when I lived down in North Carolina, in the flatlands. The Actually, I lived in the city of Wilson, but I forget what city this particular story came from. I may have been in Wilson. That particular, it may have happened in Wilson. I'm pretty sure out on the outskirts. I was riding. Well, it was early in the morning. I'm guessing maybe 7:30, 8 o'clock, something like that. And I'm riding. Well, Wilson had a lot of fields all around it. It was pretty much, you had the city of Wilson, and then everything else was pretty much farm country. Very flat, fertile land that, man, with the sun beating down, man, we grew stuff like you wouldn't believe. There was, man, tomatoes and corn and, oh gosh, cantaloupes. I know there's one place, guy had acres and acres of cantaloupes and watermelons and stuff like that. And so a lot of it was a farm community. And even though it was the city of Wilson was urban, more than its share of urban, you weren't too far out of town, and the farm started, which is great. You know, and a lot of factories, food processing plants, and all that. And a lot of people had jobs in a factory, but also had like a section of land where they grew stuff. And I think if I recall this right, it may have been a day off from school, or it may have been that this little kid, who was African American, was out in the field, I think walking to school or walking somewhere. he, he didn't look like a hooky player, so I think he was walking to school, not trying to find some way to avoid it. I believe in the field his dad was somewhere nearby. And this may have also been a Saturday where he didn't have to go to school. Okay. We're talking 40 years ago. By the way, this kid, who was probably about 5 years old, 6 years old at the most, gosh, he'd be in his 40s now. He'd have kids of his own. Maybe, now I don't think he'd be a grandfather yet, but he'd probably, if he had kids, they were probably dating and working on getting hitched. But I was watching him, and he was just so cool. He had on his back, I guess maybe his mom did it for him, but he had like a towel that was made into a cape like Superman. Okay. So, and he's walking through the field. His dad may have been in another corner of the field, but there was this big pile of dirt. I'm assuming it was topsoil, or it may have been rotted manure mixed with topsoil. And probably Dad was going to spread it around for too long. Well, the kid saw this pile. Now, it was being as he was about, not much more than about 3 foot high, if that. This was a mountain to the kid, it was at least 3 times his height. It was about 9 feet of topsoil. And the hill, you climbed an area, you climbed like this if you were going to climb to get to the top, and it was pointy at the top. It had soaked down a little bit, so there was a place to stand. Well, this kid takes a look at that pile of dirt, and he has to climb it. And I don't blame him. I'd be right there with him if I was 8 or 9 years old. That would have been like a mountain to him. In fact, I'll bet as he thinks back, that hill probably in his memory was 20 feet high. and he had to scale it. He had to get to the top. He goes to the side of that hill, and he looks up at it, and he starts one hand after another with his feet going, and he's crawling up the top of that thing, and something would happen. It was pretty steep. He'd fall back down. Shake his head. He'd get back on it, start climbing, maybe a little faster this time. Maybe speed would do it. And or then he's kicking his. Of course, he falls back, His dad's cheering him on. Come on, you can do it. You can do it. I'm looking again. I'm out on the highway, parked and just looking. I'm cheering too, but the kid could never hear me. I'm too far away. But Dad and yeah, come on, you and kid's climbing, climbing. He gets almost to the top. Bang! Down he goes again. Oh my God! Well, it was loose. Yeah, it was loose. Whatever kind of dirt it was loose. It had just been put there. Oh my God! He's trying, and finally one time he goes back a bit. He goes running, and he runs to the hill, jumps on it with feet going, his hands going. Oh my God! He's clambering. He's just about to the top. Back down. Oh. And but he shakes his head. He gets further back now. He figures if he gets back really far and really takes a flying run, it's going to happen. And doggone it, he's going about as fast as say a 6 or 7 year old can go. His feet are just flying. He hits that dirt pile, leaps onto it, climbs. He's actually now he's got his body on it, slithering up to the top of that. He figures that gave him some more friction, and his body was sort of like the brakes, and his feet were the engine. And he gets his hands onto the peak. He pulls and clutches. The dirt's giving way, but he's reaching, and he, for more dirt, and his feet are flailing. And doggone if he doesn't get to the top. And he stands there just like Superman, just like that, surveying. He's looking around. Dad's cheering. I'm honking the horn. He's looking at me. And I said, hey. And he just, oh my gosh. And the funny thing is, it was fairly early in the morning. And I'm sure, not from my angle, but his dad was kind of nearby. The sun was kind of beaten down, sort of created like a halo around him from his dad's point of view. Dad was so proud. The kid was just beside himself. And then he realized he had to get down off that thing. Well, that wasn't too hard. He just slid, jumped, and it was like I said, relatively loose dirt, nothing going to hurt him. And he just slid down on his fanny, down to the back to the ground. Dad comes over, gives him a big old pat on the back. And well, how could you not? How could you not? That kid, I think, had a very nice family and hardworking. And, I imagine by now, I imagine he's married, has a few kids of his own. They're probably teenagers driving him nuts. But all in all, a pretty cool kid. I have no idea what his name was. I don't know if I ever saw him again. But that was an extremely impressive sight to see. And I remember doing things like that myself. And it's funny how you think back, just real quick. I remember, I think I did a story on it, about a cliff that my friend Steve and I climbed to the top of. We fell back a few times, bruises and climbing. And again, as kids, that cliff, if anyone were to ask me, I would say, that cliff was at least 30 feet high. We were lucky to live. Well, I rode by that cliff one day on business, and I said, well, that cliff's here somewhere. I saw the cliff. That 30-foot high cliff was about 5 feet high. So this kid must be thinking he climbed the Matterhorn as a man now. But no, it wasn't that awful high. It was about 3 times his height, which for a kid, is quite a climb. And it certainly was loose dirt. He had an awful time getting up, but darned if he didn't do it. Bless his heart. Yes, sir. And he was, I think, an inspiration. Cool little fellow. Yep. Anyway, friends, thank you. And I hope you enjoyed that little story. People, I'm doing these little series on people that really impressed me with their something, some way, somehow in their life impressed me. It's pretty cool. Anyway, I'll see you later. Thank you. God bless. Bye now.